who says, as conservative as you want to be, just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do, or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what Libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Everyone, thank you so much for coming. Yes, the brand is so strong. I have to keep having my coffee every single afternoon, so I'm very happy that you are here with me. And as always, please like, comment, and share. Let people know that we are doing things, trying to make a difference here, because I am very lucky today. I have with me someone who is trying to make a difference in his state, the great state of Missouri. Or is Missouri? I'm not sure how you want to pronounce it, but I'm going to say Missouri. A fellow Marine, Semper Fi brother, just like myself. Someone who is trying to make a difference, running for Congress in Missouri as a Libertarian, Jacob Turner. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
Awesome. Absolutely. And for more information on Jacob Turner, please head over to jacobturner.nationbuilder.com and check out what he's doing. Also, his Facebook page, I put it in the description to check him out. So, Jacob, I got to ask, why in the world would you want to punish yourself by running for Congress? And why Congress and why now?
Well, I see with the way COVID's being handled, the government is acting very totalitarian-like. I'm starting to see them overstep, even in a state like Missouri that has been somewhat protected and safeguarded from some of the nonsense that you've had to deal with where you live or out in California.
Yep.
It's starting to reach us as well. And once it starts to reach us, that means it's going everywhere. And I've had a lifetime of service. I raised my right hand when I was 17 years old to go in service. And ever since then,
as did I.
Some form or fashion, I have been serving along the way in my community, whether it be on an ambulance or at a firehouse. There's been some way I've been giving back. And I look and see how the government's overstepping. And I feel like right now, the people who love liberty, who love freedom, who have the ability to step up and speak on the behalf of true freedom need to take this time now to actually do that before it's too late.
So, but let me ask now, you could have run for your local mayor. You could have run for city council to go local, or you could have tried to get in the presidential ticket and go even bigger, or you could have gone for Senate coming up here in a couple of years. I'm curious as to why you thought that Congress was the right answer for you.
Well, Congress here, it covers our 30 counties. Our district's very large. And I've lived here my whole life. I was born here, raised here. I love the people of this district. And I've noticed that under the rule of the person who's in office right now, our nation or our district has become more poor and has less opportunities than they did before. I think that if we had a leader who cared more about the actual people here in this district and wanted to bring businesses, who loves to see business thrive and can actually give back to the community, I feel like this seat is the best spot for me to enact those changes. I'm willing to work with community leaders all across the district, regardless of their political beliefs, to work to aid the people of this district. I just want to see progress as far as more freedom, but also to build our economy here. We have people who are really struggling, kids that are struggling because their parents have no way to make an honest or a good living. So
sure. Well, you are someone who has done something a little bit different, and that is you spent 8 years as a Marine, and then you went out and became an entrepreneur. That's not common. Most of the jarheads like us, when we get out, we tend to go get a job. That's the norm. You didn't do that. Why?
It's kind of been in my blood. It's just the way that my mother, being raised by my mother, listened to the principles that she would teach the idea of going out and crafting your own destiny, using the ability to go out and make your future and be able to benefit many others. With starting a business, you get to pass forward and give people jobs that have good employment. You have the ability to pay people well, and that benefits their family. It just spreads. It just spreads out, and it helps everybody. And that's what I like about business, is your ability to not only gain income for yourself, because that's good to be able to give to you, for your family, but also the ability that it gives you to give back to your community and to other people who need good jobs with people who employ them that actually care for them.
But here's, and I don't mean to be nudging you, but I'm going to nudge you anyway, because you went Marine, then you went entrepreneur, and you're making money as an entrepreneur, but you still volunteer in an ambulance.
Right.
Yeah, you see, you're doing like weird stuff here, Jacob. This is like odd stuff. What's going on here? Well,
I always have that desire to serve. You feel the same way. It's whatever drove you to make that choice to become a Marine. It was joining something bigger than yourself to give back or to make society better. When I got out of the Marine Corps and I got to focus on my business and things started to go good, I actually had more free time. And I thought, man, I started to have that feeling again. Oh, I want to give back, but how can I? And now I've become anti-war. So I didn't want to participate anymore in an unjust, what I see as an unjust war. So the way I feel is the best to give back for me was to join the local fire department. And through that, I started to learn a love for medicine, getting to actually treat patients and help them in an emergency crisis to help save their lives. I mean, we've brought people, I have 3 clinical saves on my record, and that's
nice.
That's so big for me. I'm very proud of that. That's 3 people that are out walking around in our community who are alive today because someone took time to volunteer. And it's not just all on me. It's a team. We're working as a team, but yeah, that led me,
like you brought up, because a lot of people, when they think of libertarians, they think of, oh, you care about the individual and you're selfish. But I don't think that's true at all. What we're talking about is just volunteering. But we can help out and join groups and be part of teams and be part of all these things. It's just we're not being forced. We're choosing to do so, and we're doing it voluntarily. And you're actually doing exactly that.
Right. Yeah. Part of the biggest problem in our country right now is 50% of the country wants to force their way of living on to the other 50%. And it's never going to work. It just causes, it's a constant battle. And what we're just trying to say is, hey, we just want to live life how we want, as long as we don't hurt anybody or hurt their property. We just want to be able to live our lives. And that allows us to give back to our communities.
Okay. So there's probably 45 different issues that bug you, I'm sure, but federal level, local level, so many. But can you give me kind of 3 that float to the top for you? 3 top issues that are there for you?
Yes, sir. First one would be protecting the Second Amendment, because I realize that protecting the Second Amendment is going to be what keeps us free in this nation. There's nothing to stop sometimes when you say things like tyrannical government, people automatically think, well, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist or something like that. But we've seen throughout history how things can go terribly wrong when the wrong people get in control and the citizens can't protect themselves or be able to keep their liberties and freedoms at all. We've seen with COVID that our government,
even they're just afraid to even do anything, right? They don't feel the confidence to actually do anything.
Right. And we've seen with COVID that they're willing to push things pretty far. I
know, worse than most.
Right. You have to watch your TV to be told if you're allowed to go outside or if you're allowed to. My wife was pregnant during COVID. We just had a little girl not too long ago. And
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We're really proud of her. And there was a time where I didn't even know if I was going to get to go to the ultrasound appointment, that they were saying, hey, no, you can't come. There's only going to be, your wife comes. And that is pretty wild that someone who runs your state can make that call for you. You don't get to be there for that moment, or to say that, hey, you can't bury your parent at this time. You're going to have to do it on our time. And so many people can't go. You're not going to be able to have a group for a funeral. This is too far. This is too much. I mean, we
So
as
where is in the case of the Second Amendment, do you feel like the attack is national, state, both? Where is your head on that? I mean, I can see it in my state. My state's just terrible. In my state, the Second Amendment is the second, I don't know, suggestion, the second opinion. It's not the Second Amendment in my state. We've already thrown it out the window. Is it the same, you think, in Missouri, or you think it's going that country, or where's your head here?
Well, here in Missouri, we'd like to think that it's not. And my state actually surprised me when they put forth a bill that stated that no federal gun laws would affect our state. So the bill gets all the way to the end and they table it. This is a Republican.
Wow.
This is a Republican majority, and a majority of the state was wanting this to go through. And instead of pushing it through and making it official, they tabled it. So that tells me right there that there are people that have control. They're pushing this as a national level, and eventually it won't matter that it's just in some other state. It matters to me that it's in some other state. It matters to me that California and that New York has to deal with this. I mean, it's a big deal for me. I want to have liberty and freedom for everybody, not just Missouri.
Sure.
So, but if we let it happen in other areas, it's going to slide here very quickly. And I think
I said all the time, people should care about New York, because what happens in New York is coming to you.
It is.
It'll be coming to you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're a few years behind, but it's going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, you do have a fan here. Keith says, "Welcome, Jacob. I'm interested in hearing more about you and your ideas." So you got a fan already. That's nice. So that's number one. Do you have a second one that's kind of important to you?
Yes, it's bringing the troops home. Starting to push to pull our troops home and get them out of these foreign lands. I hate to see good, strong Americans who are patriots, who are willing to serve their country, get misled to go over to these foreign countries. They lose their arms, they lose their legs. Sometimes even worse, they have these injuries that you can't see. They come home with PTSD and they lose their lives to mental illness. This can all be avoided. I mean, even if you want to look at it from a financial standpoint, if the PTSD and the suicide rates aren't enough for someone listening, well, let's look at it from a financial standpoint. I'm a businessman. We can talk numbers. We look at the taxes that we're spending over there, the trillions of dollars that we spent in this. Now we call it an endless war. This is sad. This is sad. We're bleeding. And we've never officially built a nation besides our own. So I don't know why we call ourselves nation builders. And we're not.
It's a valid point. And the thing I love is there are so many veterans who now are much more liberty leaning and actually have become, hey, look, if the Chinese come across the border, I'm in. I'll fight. I'll repel them from our borders unto death without question. But why am I fighting in someone else's civil war? Right? Why am I fighting in someone's? I've said it before. And I'm an old man now. I was in the Marine Corps in the 80s, right? So when would I leave my legs in the streets of Manhattan? Yeah, still to this day I would. But do I want to leave my legs in the streets of Baghdad?
Right.
No, I don't. Right. I'm not prepared for that. I'm happy to hear someone like you and so many veterans like us who are like, you know what? It's enough. We're not. It's enough for us fighting in someone else's civil wars.
Right. It is. It is. And something that I really try to push to people is we should never abuse the patriotism and the willingness to go fight for our country, because one day we're really going to need it. And that patriotism isn't going to be there. They're going to, it's a war fatigue. They're going to war fatigue this nation. And it hasn't happened yet, but it will happen if we keep pushing. And eventually men aren't going to be, and women aren't going to be lined up at the recruiter's office to actually go serve.
Absolutely. Dan asks, who are you running against?
I'm running against Republican Jason Smith for the 8th district. Yes, sir.
There we go. 8th district. There we go. So that's where you are. Awesome. And for those of you who like what Jacob is saying, for those of you who think he's the kind of guy who you might want others to see, then like, comment, and share so others can see it. But more importantly, head over to his Facebook page or head over to his website, jacobturner.nationbuilder.com. And if you've got a couple bucks, give. If you got some bucks to give him, go ahead. If you can take 10 bucks, 20 bucks, whatever. What's your maximum, Jacob? What's your maximum donation?
I think it's $200.
There we go. So you can drop as much as you want, right? Go ahead, drop 200 bucks if you want to. Keep dropping him whatever you want. And whatever you can give him, go ahead, because he can use it. He needs it for things like signs. He needs it for, palm cards. He needs it for Facebook ads, all those types of things. So whatever you can give. And if you're saying, Larry, I'm I'm tight. No worries. Go to his website, click contact, and tell him you're ready to volunteer. He needs volunteers too. He needs people to do those, to do those cool social media stuff. He needs people to make phone calls and send emails and all that stuff. So if you can volunteer, go ahead. If you've got some cash, give what you can give so he can move this entire place forward. So let me ask you, Jacob, what's number 3?
Number 3, I would really like to see the Federal Reserve end. Ron Paul stated, and I've been a student of Ron Paul for a very long time. In the Fed was one of the greatest books ever written, in my opinion. And we look at how they're manipulating, how they're utilizing, how they're causing inflation. And we see how the dollar has dwindled in its worth. It's not looking good. We see things like Bitcoin, and we see cryptocurrency starting to flourish and starting to rise up. And yes. I think there is another way. I think there is going to be a way to overcome this, because it manipulates the American people as well. They will inflate the numbers or deflate the numbers to give an appearance of a good economy, to help get people elected or stay in office. Many times this is something that, if you aren't familiar with, I would recommend the book In the Fed by Ron Paul.
There we go. I like that. Keith actually just said he's rereading it. Keith says, rereading End the Fed here, loving it so far, and I wish more people would pick it up. But Keith also asked a question specific. He says, Jacob, going back to your comment regarding war fatigue, what is your opinion regarding economic conditions leading more young people to join the military when they might otherwise want to avoid it due to war fatigue or other concerns?
Right. No, that's an outstanding question. I would say once we learn to better utilize our military, that people could still join the military and they could utilize the military to give back. For instance, my idea on on how they utilize Border Patrol, I think we should do away with that office. There's no need for a Border Patrol. Why would we need a Border Patrol when we have a National Guard that every unit trains 2 weeks out of the year? They have to train 2 weeks out of the year, and they train on things like patrols, and they go out and they practice their 5-paragraph orders. Why don't we just rotate the different National Guard units down and allow them to monitor the borders if that makes people feel safe? And then we can cut out the Border Patrol. I have many ideas to cut out things like the ATF, the DEA, especially the IRS. I mean, most people who are libertarians would love to see that go. So
absolutely. But no, I love your idea. The concept is, if you already are paying for military and now we're not fighting in foreign wars, why can't you just, have any given unit, deployed to the border for 6 months or a year or whatever the case may be, right?
Sure. Well, even if we alternate them on their due training, they have a certain amount of time that they have to train regardless. And if you're looking for a job where you want to go and practice those skills, because right now we don't need to be involved in a war, and there isn't a war that's justified. However, we may at one point have someone who becomes an aggressor, and we may have to fight back, and to be able to train in those skills is good to stay sharp. So in case we ever do have to use our military for a just reason.
Absolutely. I love it. So those are 3 issues, but you also mentioned getting rid of ATF, IRS. Tell me, how do you get rid of the IRS? Doesn't that scare people when you say that? Not that I'm against it. I'm not against it. I'm just saying, but when you say get rid of IRS, doesn't someone go, what? How are we going to pay for the roads? I mean, isn't that what people always tell you?
Right. And there's actual big studies called the Laffer Curve. And what the Laffer Curve is, that there's a percentage of 18% that says that if taxes is down 18%, which is way lower than what anybody pays right now, especially us in business, we pay way higher. The 18% is the mark where people feel comfortable paying a taxes without trying to lie or hide. And right now, a major majority of America don't pay taxes. They'll find ways out of it or to hide. So if we had a flat tax, just a flat tax across the board, let's say 10%. I'm a Baptist, so 10% is good enough for God. It should be good enough for the government. That's what I always say. But
sure.
Obviously, I would like to see it to where it's a volunteer system eventually. But right now, let's just say that we say 10% across the board. Everybody pays regardless of what you make. You pay your fair share, your 10%. Well, at that point, there's really no need for the IRS. just have it come out
But hold on,
automatic.
if we just pay 10% or whatever the fee is, in this
Right.
case 10%, clearly someone's going to ask you, look,
Right.
wait a minute, Jacob, if we pay 10%, we're not going to have any money right now. Again, we're not going to have any money. What's going on here? I feel like that's going to be a normal pushback. But
Right.
what has been your response when people push back and say, we're not going to have any money?
Well, that comes down to transparency on how the government spends their money. Let's find out where
Okay.
the waste and the abuse of funds that are being allocated are. For instance, there's an issue that I could solve real quick, and it's one that I'm familiar with in the military. Let's say that a unit gets, we'll say $500,000 a year. This unit receives $500,000 for spending at their unit. If that CO doesn't spend that money that has been given to him, the next year he will be penalized and they will deduct that money down. So out of fear of not having the money to be protected in the following year of not knowing what's coming, he spends that money regardless as if he needs it or not. So let's make it to where it's not, and this is actually all government institutions, not just the military. Let's make it.
I remember the Marine Corps just firing off rounds to get rid of rounds.
Right.
Because if we don't finish all the rounds, we don't get them next year. So if we had anything left, it was like, just fire all the rounds off. And we'd fire all our rounds downrange to make sure that we got rid of them for the next year. I remember that still.
Right. So let's fix that problem. First of all, let's make it to where if people want to make it to where people can be wise with the money and not be punished for being wise with the money. And let's do that across the board. That's going to save us a huge amount. Also,
it's crazy how so many libertarians are almost the only people ever talking about actual transparency. It is a common thread. All the time you hear it, people talking about, and libertarians talking about that they have transparency, saying, can we just see where the money's going? Can we just do that? It's crazy.
Right. And I want to be clear, I'm not a fan of taxes at all. The idea of being taxed, I'm not a fan of that. But we have to realize that we live in a society where if you change things too fast, people panic. And we want to make sure that we, as you would say, we want to just turn it around and we want to start heading in the right direction. Because if we try to push our ideas too quickly, it will actually pull back the other way. And we could end up in a worse position than we are now.
So you have another question from Keith. I think Keith's a fan. Keith says, I'm curious to hear Jacob's thoughts on healthcare, especially universal healthcare, as many people are starting to get on board with the idea. They're thinking it's the best or the only solution, the way many politicians keep pitching it. Do you have any view on the healthcare situation? It's very complex and it also it's emotional, right? Particularly if you have children, you get scared and worried. It's an emotional issue too.
Well, I think when we talk about transparency for the government, we can also talk about transparencies for healthcare, because this is something that I see when I work in medicine. And one of the big things is when you go to a hospital, you don't know what you're going to spend for your healthcare or for when you're seen by the doctor until after you're billed. Then you find out. And one of my friends put this in a perfect way. He said, you wouldn't go to a donut shop, pick out your donuts, get up to the cash register, and they'll say, don't worry about it. We'll bill you later. And not tell you how much it is, but we'll bill you later. And that makes perfect sense. If we go back to the free market way of doing things, and we open and let them compete like businesses. For instance, Cape Girardeau, a little south of where I live, they have 2 major hospitals. Well, let's make it so that all of their listings for prices are transparent. We can see. We can go on a website and look at how much it costs us to be seen and let those 2 hospitals compete for our business. At that point, it would lower healthcare costs because they'll have to compete at that point. It's not I will bill you later. It's not I will, So as far as when we get to universal healthcare, I don't think that a doctor or any services should be forced to use their skills to give something to somebody else without their, for how do I say this?
Look, it's all about consent. I'm with you. We are the party of consent. That's absolutely true. We are all about consent. I remember someone the other day was like, well, would you ever do this to someone or do that to someone? I'm like, only if they want me to. That's it, right? If they want it, all about consent. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they go to school, they train, they put in the time to go through medical school and to do all these things, and they come out. And even though their job is to help people, it's also their business. It's also their livelihood.
Sure.
It's how they provide jobs.
Absolutely.
It's how they provide, like a regular primary care physician. He runs that office just like I would run my business. He has people who work
Sure.
for him and his nurses are his employees, and he has to run, a regular business. He can't afford to be forced.
He's got to make money. Of course he does.
Right.
So look, if you're liking what Jacob's saying, then do me a favor, like, comment, and share, and let other people know that Jacob is here talking about this. And if you want to support somebody who's trying to make something happen in Missouri and it matters to you, you know what? Head over to jacobturner.nationbuilder.com and give some cash. Right? If you can throw a couple bucks his way, he could use it. You got 20 bucks, you got $100, you got some cash you can throw his way. Particularly if you live in Missouri and you want if you want a voice like this out there in the media, throw him a couple bucks so he can do it. So he can do the Facebook ad, so we can get the palm card, so we can get the sign, so we can, put the flyers up and all the things that are required. And so he can drive around his district. All those counties, that's a lot of counties. He's got to drive around those counties. That's gas money too. So throw some bucks at him. If you can't do that, no worries. If you don't have the cash, you can always volunteer. He will need someone to help him, go out there and do some sign waves. He's going to need someone to hang out some, door hangers on doorknobs and stuff. He needs all those things. And he needs social media warriors too. The meme wars are real. He needs meme warriors. So help him out. jacobturner.nationbuilder.com. Help him out to the best of your ability if you can. So you talked about several issues. I pushed on a couple. But here's one of the more important ones that I think. Jacob, we all libertarians deal with this issue. How do we make impact? The deck is stacked against us, right? It is. The media is stacked against us. It's tougher to get out there. There's still COVID lockdowns in certain states and people who are afraid to come out still because of COVID. They've been sitting watching CNN for a year. They know we're going to die no matter what. Lots of issues and concerns. I get it. But how do you make impact?
Well, one of the ways is we stick together as libertarians and we help each other. We work together. We work together as a team. For instance, you allowed me to come on your show, and you were kind enough to let me come on and speak with you. That is a huge thing right there. If we can all look after each other, if we can all help push the message together as a team, and realize that it is going to be a slow change. It is going to be one of those things that we have to fight and work our way in, but we're getting closer every time. We're getting closer every time, and liberty is worth the fight. It is worth the time. And I feel that the more we get out there, the more people who run for office, who actually have these solid ideas that are backed with beautiful principles, I feel like this is going to help push the message forward. It's just the more time we spend out getting out in front of people. I have people in my district who I've spoke to thus far who said, "What is a libertarian? What is it?" And so I'm the first person who gets to sit down and explain what is a libertarian. And I'm just like, hold on. Like, here it comes. The most beautiful thing you're ever going to hear. It's going to change your mind. It's going to change your life. This is a beautiful philosophy. And I
like it. Deanna says liberty is worth the fight. I think she's right. I agree.
I think so.
Absolutely. Yes. Tim says, double down on supporting other libertarians. Politics is a popularity contest. I'm with you, Tim. It is, right? They have to know who we are, don't they, Jacob? You can't vote for you if we don't know who you are, right?
Right. That's exactly right.
Absolutely.
And just taking the time to speak with people.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. To take the time to actually just sit down and speak with people about what it means. I think that the other parties are willing to do that. We have to be willing to do that as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, look, I'd love you to win. I want you to win. The reality of it is many libertarians don't win. I didn't. I wanted to win too, right? We all want to win. We don't always win. I hope you win. If you don't win, is there another way you define a secondary victory? Is there a way you would define it?
If the question is not asked again of what libertarian is in my district, then I have officially won. If they know who we are and what we are about, and now I have educated the people who have just missed out on this great opportunity of being a part of the most valuable movement that America has ever seen. If I can spread the message and just plant the seeds for future generations, I feel like that's a victory. I feel like if we can reach 10%, not only would we have broke every record for libertarians here, but I think that really puts us on the map. And that allows people to have that motivation to say, hey, look, we've done something here. We've made history. Now it's just go forward and do bigger each year.
Right.
Each election.
That's great. That's excellent. So does that mean that you think that you might run for something again? Or you think this is just your shot and you're kind of going to be done after this? Do you have a gut feeling either way?
I will be involved with the movement of liberty for the rest of my life in one way or another.
Nice. I love hearing that, my friend. God, I love hearing that. Absolutely. Yes. So
Yes,
let me ask you, anyone out there who's liking what they're hearing, have you gone over to jacobturner.nationville.com yet to check him out? You should. His Facebook page, you can go there too. It's cool. It's got a good picture of him smiling. It's all nice. Got tie on, the whole deal. It's really great. Check that out. If you go to this show description, you can see his link for his Facebook page and for his website. Please check him out. See what he's doing. If you can donate, please do so. Throw a couple bucks his way. If you can't, no worries. He needs volunteers too. We do need, and Tim's right. We got to support each other. So if you consider yourself part of the movement, then support them if you can. Jacob, did I miss anything today? There's something you want to talk about that I might have missed?
No, sir. I would just like to ask you if you had one piece of advice from somebody who's been through it, who's been in the trenches. And when I was explaining to my wife about your movement and what you did, I said, you have to realize that when we walk out here, we're talking to people who are already friendly to liberty. We're talking to people in Missouri, out in these country towns that are living somewhat of the lifestyle already. A lot of them are libertarians. They just don't know it. But here, I said, Mr. Sharp, he's in New York. You know, he's up there and he's fighting hard in the trenches to where there are people who actively hate the word freedom. You know?
Yes.
You did it. You
My
went
neighbors.
up there and you right. Well, you fought hard in a place that was not friendly and not set up for you to actually do what you did, and you did it. So if you could give me one piece of advice, I would greatly listen and take that.
Yeah. The number one thing is to realize when people say you're wrong, you're crazy, you're bad, you're whatever, don't fight them. Don't focus on the thing they're saying, but focus on the shared outcome. So when someone says, you libertarians hate taxes, don't go, well, let me explain why taxes are evil. That's not going to help. I would instead say, don't you want better schools? Well, yeah. Taxes right now we're paying for them. They aren't doing well. Can't we find a better way? Focus on the shared outcome versus fighting the specific issue they're throwing at you. If you find a shared outcome, they'll hear you. And that's the biggest piece. Don't fight the specifics, even when they tell you you're wrong, even when they're completely wrong. Instead, focus on a shared outcome and they'll begin to hear you. That will be my advice in moving this thing forward.
Thank you. And thank you once again for having me on. This has been awesome.
I appreciate it. Guys, thank you all so much for coming. Again, please check him out. All his links are in the description. I will be back on tonight at 7 p.m. Yes, I just can't stop doing this. So I'll see you guys all hopefully later